Bhajahure mana Srinandanandana Bhaya Charanara Vindare. Bhajahure mana Srinandanandana Bhaya Charanara Vindare. Durlabhamana janama satsange tarohe bhava sindhure. Durlabhamana janam satsange tarohi bhava sindhure. Shitoyatapa Bhatavarishana Edin Jamini Jagire. Bifale sevino kripana durjanam Chapala sukhalaba lagire. E dhana jauvana putra parijana Ithe kiya che parati tire. Kamala dalla jala jivana talla mala bhajahu haripada nitire. Jivana talla mala Shravana kirtanam smarana vandanam pada sevana dasya re. Pujana sakhi jana atma nivedana Govinda Dasa bhilashare. Bhajahure mana Srinandanandana Abhaya Charanara Vindare. Bhajahure mana Srinandanandana Abhaya Charanara Vindare. Srinandanandana Abhaya Durlabhamana vajanama satsange tarohe bhava sindhure. Yes, Trivita Prabhu.
O wretched foolish mind, just give up all deceit and worship Krishna's fearless lotus feet. Don't waste this human life, stay close to devotees and cross this worldly sea of miseries. My sleepless nights and days I've simply spent in vain, beset by heat and cold and wind and rain, while blindly serving cunning people steeped in sin, in search of fleeting pleasures of the skin. What joy is there in wealth and youth or sons and kin, when I can see my life is tottering? Just like a drop of water on a lotus leaf, all mine just serve the feet of Lord Hari. I long to hear and chant about my Lord Hari, remember Him and serve Him constantly, and pray to Him and worship Him and serve His feet, become His friend and give myself complete. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 2, text number 39. Iti jata sunirvedaha kṛṣṇa sangena sadhushu ganga dvaram upeyaya mukta sarvanubandhanaha iti jata sunirveda kṛṣṇa sangena sadhushu ganga dvaram upeyaya mukta sarvanubandhanaha iti jata sunirveda kṛṣṇa sangena sadhushu ganga dvaram upeyaya mukta sarvanubandhanaha iti jata sunirveda kṛṣṇa sangena sadhushu ganga dvaram upeyaya mukta sarvanubandhanaha iti jata sunirveda ganga dvaram upeyaya mukta sarvanubandhanaha. Anybody else? Okay, Mukunda's turn. Okay. Iti, thus, Jata Sunirvedaha, Ajamil, who had become detached from the material conception of life. Kṛṣṇa Sangena, by a moment's association. Sadhushu, with devotees. Gangadwaram, through Hardwar. Haridwara, the doorway to Hari, because the Ganges begins there. Hardwar is also called Gangadwara. Upeyaya, went. Mukta, being freed from. Sarva anubandhanaha, all kinds of material bondage. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Because of a moment's association with devotees, the Vishnu Dutas, Ajamila detached himself from the material conception of life with determination. Thus freed from all material attraction, he immediately started for Hardwar. Purport. The word Mukta Sarvanubandhanaha indicates that after this incident, Ajamila, not caring for his wife and children, went straight for Hardwar for further advancement in his spiritual life. Our Krishna consciousness movement now has centers in Vṛndāvana and Navadvīpa, so that those who want to live a retired life, whether they be devotees or not, can go there and with determination give up the bodily concept of life. One is welcome to live in those holy places for the rest of his life in order to achieve the highest success by the very simple method of chanting the holy name of the Lord and taking prasāda. Thus, one may return back home, back to Godhead. We do not have a center in Hardwar, but Vṛndāvana and Sridham Mayapur are better for devotees than any other places. The Chaitanya Chandrodaya temple offers one a good opportunity to associate with devotees. Let us all take advantage of this opportunity. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Shreshtam Manamapi Shachiputra Matra Surupam Rupam Tasyagrajam Urupurim Mathurim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we are continuing our narration of the pastime of the deliverance of Ajamila by the Vishnu Dutas. And the last few verses have been talking about mainly chanting the holy name and sadhu sangha. So the principle of sadhu sangha is, of course, as we all know, a very important one, a very big topic, very basic topic of Krishna consciousness. And the principle is that our association, whatever we choose to associate with, whether it's our, with our time, with our energy, with our various senses, it determines what consciousness we have. It determines our, our mindset and the particular modes of material nature that we are in or under. So materialists, practically speaking, only associate with materialists and materialistic sound vibration and materialistic visuals and materialistic activities, etc. So therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam says, Nate vidu swartakatim hi vishnum darashayaye bahir arthamaninaha anthayatandai rupaniyamanas te pishatantyam urudhamni baddha. That because materialistic people consider the external sense objects, bahir arthamaninaha, because they consider things which are external and material, because they consider them to be valuable, arthamaninaha, then they subject themselves to the influence of other materialistic people. And so just like the analogy is given, just like a blind man leading other blind men, they all miss the right path and fall into a ditch. So similarly, materialistic men, led by other materialistic men, they're simply bound by the ropes of fruitive activity, which are made of very, very strong cords. And like this, they're bound. And because they're in this condition, nate vidu swartakatim hi vishnum, they don't know the real value, which is Vishnu, which is Krishna. And not only do they not know it, they can't know it, because, or in the particular state of consciousness that they're in, because of these things. So one who's a materialist, their consciousness is taken away. Taya parhita chetasam, bhogaishwarya prasaktanam, taya parhita chetasam, vyavasayatmaka buddhi samadhana vidyate. That one who is engrossed or indulging their senses in the objects of the senses, and one who's invested in these different things, then their consciousness is taken away. Why? Because they don't know what's really good for them. Because if what's really good for them doesn't line up with what gratifies their senses, then they reject such a thing. So they can't really know truth. Because that's not their real goal. That's not their real, that's not the goal of their understanding, the goal of their activities, etc. And so Bhagavad Gita continues, buddhi nashat pranashiti, that because they've lost their intelligence in this way, then everything is lost. Everything pranashiti, then it's over for them, practically speaking. In the sense that they have to take birth again. They have to take birth again, and try again and again and again, over and over and over again, in different species of life. What's the verse? Purusha prakriti sto hi bhunkte prakriti jan gunan karanam guna sangosya sadasadyoni janmasu. That one who is in association with the modes of material nature, Purusha prakriti sto hi bhunkte prakriti jan gunan, they're enjoying the different good and bad effects of their activities. And because of this association, they have to take birth again and again in different good and bad species of life. So in this way, the world is compared to an ocean, Bhavasagra, like we sing in the Guru Vandanam by Srila Narottam Das Thakur. What's the verse or the line? Our spiritual no, I'm forgetting. Anyway, it's not coming to mind. What do you know? What I'm forgetting. No. Anyway, whatever it is, there's another one, of course, in the song that we just sang by Govinda Das Kaviraj, wherein he says that this ocean is, this material world is like an ocean. Taraho e bhava sindhu re. Bhava sindhu means ocean of bhava, the ocean of this material world. And so one who is taking birth again and again and again in this ocean, sometimes they go up, sometimes they come down, sometimes they're in the middle, sometimes they're enjoying, sometimes they're suffering, etc. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in one of his songs, Deva Danava Manava Pashu Patanga Kirta Hoye Sharga Narake Bhutale Firi Onita Asha Loye. That sometimes I take birth. This is Srivas Thakur's son. He's narrating the pastime of Srivas Thakur's son who left his body during the kirtan, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought him back, and then this is what he spoke. So he says, Deva Danava Manava Pashu. Sometimes I'm a deva, sometimes I'm a demon, sometimes I'm a man, sometimes I'm an animal, sometimes I'm a bird, sometimes I'm a bug. Sharga Narake Bhutale Firi. Sometimes I go up to Svargaloka, sometimes I go down to hell, Naraka, and Bhutale Firi. And then I return to this earthly plane sometimes. And all the while, Annitya Asha Loye. my material, my annita asha, annita means anitya, but in Bengali pronunciation, annito, means unending. And then asha means like desires, wishes, aspirations. So my unending material desires are taking me, loye, they're taking me to all these different places. And all the while they're unsatisfied. And so, therefore, it is recommended by Krishna, by all the acharyas, by Srila Prabhupada, by the Srimad Bhagavatam, that we get out of this material world. Because the material world is a place of suffering. Nobody wants to suffer, but suffering is imposed. And so therefore, in the song that we sang, Bhaja Hure Mana, it says, Durlabha Manava Janama Satsange Tarahoe Bhava Sindhure. That if one wants to cross the ocean of material existence, then one should use his human form of life, Durlabha Manava Janma, which is very difficult to obtain. Satsange Tarahoe Bhava Sindhure. And one should cross over the ocean of material existence by satsanga, by association with devotees, by association with sadhus. So the word sadhu, the term sadhu, refers to one who is aspiring for sadhya. Sadhya means perfection. So one who is aspiring for sadhya, what is sadhya? Sadhya means anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadyanavratam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. So uttama bhakti, or the highest form of Krishna consciousness, is anyabhilashita shunyam. Means it's completely devoid of any other desires. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadyanavratam. Any other desires for jnana, which is referring to impersonal liberation. Karma, which is referring to pious activities to get one to the heavenly planets. And liberation, no other desires. Jnana karmadyanavratam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. And then beyond just having no desires for all these different things, then one cultivates the desire, one has a desire in the perfectional stage, anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. That one is always engaging in activity with their mind, body, and words, which is favorable for the pleasure of Krishna. And so such people are referred to as sadhus, pure devotees. Or at least, if they don't have this, at least they have faith in it, and at least they are working toward it. My spiritual master had a lecture called Paramahamsas in the Making. Because in one lecture he was describing his center, ISKCON Salem, and he mentioned how maybe not all of them are pure devotees, but at least they're always engaged in Krishna service. At least they're always, very, determined to please Krishna. But, they may not have reached the perfectional stage yet. But then in another lecture, he followed up and he said, well, I kind of take that back, actually, because Paramahamsa in the Making is pretty much as good as a Paramahamsa. So anyway, one's enjoined to associate with such people. One is enjoined to associate with such people who are favorably engaged in Krishna service and who have the proper understanding of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness and of reality, of tattva. And by association with such devotees, one develops their qualities. Yasyasi bhaktir bhagavati kinchana sarvaya gunais tatra samasate suraha harava bhaktasya kroma hardgunama manoraten asati dhavato bahihi. That one who is engaged in Krishna service, one who is engaged in bhakti yoga, then they develop naturally, just as a side effect of being engaged in Krishna's service, one develops all of the qualities of the suras, which is, the demigods. One automatically achieves the qualities of ideal people. And so by associating with such devotees, then one naturally also gets those qualities, just as if one associates with materialistic people, then one gets, acquires materialistic qualities. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes that the Svarup Lakshana, meaning the essential, or it's also described sometimes as like the unending, the thing which is always there, the quality which is always there in a devotee, upon which all of the other qualities rest. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that without this quality, then all the other qualities, 26 qualities of a devotee, are like ornaments on an ugly woman. So this quality is Krishnaika Sharana, meaning Krishna, Eka Sharana. Krishna means Krishna, Eka means only or one, and Sharana means surrender. So the Svarup Lakshana of a Vaishnava is that he is only surrendered to Krishna. That is his only meditation, that's his only desire, is to serve Krishna. No other demigods, nobody else, just Krishna. And I mean, of course, a spiritual master too. But ultimately Krishna. And so, therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Krishna Bhakti Janma Mula Hoi Sadhu Sangha. So if one associates with devotees, then one can get this quality of Krishnaika Sharana, or at least get faith in it. Or at least see the devotees, see that, okay, this person is really experiencing something amazing, this person has real knowledge, this person is happy, peaceful. Maybe I should try it out. Maybe I should try and see if I can get to that stage by emulating them. So in this way, one attains Shraddha, faith, and Bhajana Kriya. Enough faith to engage in the process, or interest in engaging in the process of Krishna consciousness. And this principle of sadhu sangha is so important, then in the next line of this verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Krishna prema janme teno punamukya anga. That even in the liberated stage, when one's Krishna prema is already awakened, still sadhu sangha is extremely important. Still sadhu sangha is an essential part of Krishna consciousness. And there's a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which I don't have memorized, but Dravida Prabhu surely does. Satam prasanga mama virya samvido. Yeah. So, even in the liberated stage, sadhu sangha is extremely important. The association of devotees is extremely important because Krishna consciousness is not properly rendered without it. You could say it's no fun. Like imagine if we went to the spiritual world and there was just nobody there. It wouldn't be so interesting. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the incarnation of Krishna himself, coming with the mood and sentiments of Srimati Radharani, his devotee, in order to teach us Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga Shikshartam Ekaf Purushav Puranaha. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has incarnated in order to teach us principles of devotional service. And so we can see from the example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he associated with so many devotees, very intimately, and he was very excited to. It's described that just before the Lord's South Indian tour, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he informed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu of this great Vaishnava, Ramananda Roy, who was living in Vidyanagara. And so he told him, you should go speak to him. One, because he's very devoted to you, and also because he has so much knowledge. And previously, what he said is, previously I just thought he was kind of sentimental guy. But now I realize, because you've enlightened me, now I realize actually he's a great devotee. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made a trip to Vidyanagara specifically to visit Ramananda Roy. And so when he was sitting there by, I think it was the Godavari, on the banks of the Godavari, Ramananda Roy came in a palanquin, and he was surrounded by so many brahmanas and servants, and he took his bath there in the river, and these brahmanas were chanting Vedic hymns. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw him, in his mind, he ran toward him. His mind, immediately he saw him, and he was so pleased to see him that he ran toward him in his mind. Externally, it's described he was just sitting very peacefully. And so he went over to him and he said, now you must be Ramananda Roy, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He told me of your glories. He told me how glorious of a Vaishnava you are. And so I have come here just to meet you. And then, of course, they had this whole amazing conversation, which is in the 8th chapter of the Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And every night that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Vidyanagar, I think he was there for like 10 days, they spoke, and they relished all throughout the night. They spoke about Krishna, they spoke about, so many different topics. And so, by the association by associating with Ramananda Roy, and by associating with so many other devotees, Swarup Damodar, and there's so many devotees who were there in Jagannath Puri with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the Bengal devotees. Anyway, so many. So by engaging in these pastimes of associating with devotees, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was teaching us the importance that we should always stay within the association of devotees, and that we should relish it. We should really, really, really relish it, just as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. So, one other thing, just before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left for his South Indian tour, he told Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and the other devotees who were there, he said, "Actually, you are all more dear to me than my own life." He said, I could very easily give up my life, but it's very, very difficult for me to give up your association. So this is the proper understanding. And so by this association, it's described that one's demoniac tendencies, whatever materialistic tendencies one has, even if they're so small, they can be completely eradicated just by associating with devotees, just by seeing the qualities of devotees and getting their blessings. And the example of this is Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj, it's described, Prabhupada describes that he got bad association with demons, with the Danavas, because of course he was born in a family of demons. And so, of course, the story goes that he, fought with the demigods and he conquered the whole universe. And he was living very nicely with the other demons. And then Vamanadev came and took it all away. And because of his relation to Prahlad Maharaj, because of the blessings Prahlad Maharaj bestowed upon him, Lord Vishnu told him, Vamanadev told him, he assured him that when because he got this planet Sutala, which was designed specifically by Vishvakarma for this purpose. He sent him there. He said, "You just go live there. You can live there very peacefully until you become the king of the universe in in a later Manvantar." But Prabhupada describes in a purport that Prahlad Maharaj, he was somewhat anxious because of his demoniac tendencies. But still, the Lord assured him, "You'll see me there, and because you'll see me there, and because you'll be associating, because I'll be there, your any demoniac tendencies within you, any materialistic tendencies which have come about by your association with the demons will be vanquished. And you'll be able to live there very peacefully, protected. Nobody will be able to conquer you." So this association with sadhus, it gives us faith, it gives us determination, it invokes the mercy of the Lord. And by this, we can engage with resolution, with purpose, in the process of Krishna consciousness. It's described, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojataha Janayatyaśvairagyam Jnanam Chayadahaitukam. That by engaging in this process of Krishna consciousness with determination, one receives causeless knowledge and renunciation. And so we're seeing this right now in how this pastime with Ajamila is, progressing. That he got the association of the Vishnu Jutas, he chanted the holy name of the Lord, and then he realized, like in the song we sang, Edana Jovana Putra Parijana Ite Kiache Paratitire. What is the use of wealth? What is the use of women? What is the use of begetting progeny? It has nothing to do with me. Ite Kiache Paratitire. What real benefit does it give me? Kamala Dala Jala Jivana Talamala Bhajahu Hari Pada Nitire. that this human life, any life in this material world, is tottering like a drop of water on the lotus petal. So just give it all up. Just give up your faith in it. Give up your investment in it. And just bhajahu haripada nitire, worship the lotus feet of Krishna. So this is Ajamila's determination now. Mukta sarvanubandhanaha. He was liberated from all of his various material attachments. And therefore he's going to Hardwar. And so for us, of course, we don't need to, and Prabhupada never emphasized necessarily that we should go to Vṛndāvana and just chant, and we should, or go to Mayapur or Navadvīpa and just, sit and chant and live very comfortably. Or uncomfortably even, engaging in austerities. Prabhupada also didn't emphasize that. And nor did Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But instead, Prabhupada emphasized that we should see this material sense gratification and the objects of sense gratification just like stool, just different varieties of stool. And what do you do with stool? You just flush it down the toilet and you leave. So Prabhupada says we should or sorry, not Prabhupada says, but we should renounce this world just like, I forget, where is this from? Oh, right. Yeah, just as one leaves, after evacuating, one should give up this world, or give up attachment to this world, give up attachment to the object of the senses, and engage wholeheartedly in Krishna's service. And so another aspect of sadhu sangha, of course, receiving sadhu sangha, we should be greedy. We should have lobha for sadhu sangha. We should be always trying to associate with devotees. And at the same time, it's emphasized in our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya that we should also give sadhu sangha. That we should perfect ourselves by sadhu sangha, and then also become sadhus and give association to the fallen conditioned souls. And in this way, by giving mercy to the fallen conditioned souls, then the whole world can be purified. The whole world can become like Vaikuntha. The whole world can become just like in Satya Yuga. Everything prosperous. Of course, these are materialistic effects, but everything becomes prosperous. Everything becomes peaceful. No wars, no famine, sufficient rains. People become cultured. And like this, it creates an atmosphere by which people can, like it's described how Sattvagun is the springboard by which one jumps into Shuddha Sattva, which is transcendental. So if we can, by our preaching, of course we're in the Christmas marathon right now, that's why I mentioned this is the first day. By our preaching of Krishna consciousness, mainly, as Srila Prabhupada emphasized, by distributing Krishna conscious literature to the fallen conditioned souls, by this preaching, then people can have a chance to perfect their lives and go back home, back to Godhead. And not only to create good fortune in the next world, but to create good fortune in this world also. Because by our preaching, even those who don't take to Krishna consciousness right away, if we preach sufficiently, then those people who maybe you could say are tough cookies, so to speak, then it creates a favorable atmosphere by which their consciousness can be purified, at least to Sattvagun. And they can then more easily take to devotional service and go back home, back to Godhead, which is the perfection of this human form of life. So we should preach very vigorously. Prabhupada said if one wants to please me, then he should preach very, very vigorously, just like I do. And so we should be very grateful to Srila Prabhupada for his vigorous preaching and for engaging us in vigorously preaching. My spiritual master made the point, he gave a class in Govardhan about Srila Prabhupada's, about being eternally grateful to Srila Prabhupada. It was on Srila Prabhupada's disappearance day. And he was describing how when Srila Prabhupada was going to come to America, nobody really believed that he could do it. And of course we hear this a lot. But if you can imagine, like, at that time, nobody believed him. Nobody thought that it was possible. Nobody thought that it was anything feasible. And especially not that Abhay Babu could do it. What they called Srila Prabhupada. They thought, okay, he's just, he wasn't a very prominent member of the Gaudiya Math. He was a householder. There were so many big sannyasis, intimate disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, or you could say disciples who got very intimate association with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And he would send them, they would go to England, they would go to Germany, they would go to different places in Europe. And 1-2 disciples they would make, they would do some preaching, but they would come back practically speaking empty-handed. And so basically it was thought, okay, it's basically impossible. If we can't do it, nobody can. And so Srila Prabhupada, when he went to America, he had no help. Nobody helped him. He came with $7 worth of rupees and a box of, and he came with the Srimad Bhagavatam, first volume. Or was it first 3 volumes of the first canto that he had translated. And he had nothing. He had no practically. Prabhupada said, when I got off the boat, I didn't know whether to turn left or right. So Srila Prabhupada had nothing. He put himself in such an inconceivably difficult situation. But what was his meditation? Prabhupada's meditation was that I'm following the order of my spiritual master. There's this nice, amazing poem that Srila Prabhupada wrote, Kṛṣṇa tava punya have bhai. Amazing. I should have, I didn't think to pull it up before class. But such an amazing poem. And also his Vṛndāvana bhajan poem, where he's thinking, now I'm living, very comfortably in Vṛndāvana, or I'm living here in Vṛndāvana. And, right now I don't feel attracted to, my previous life, my wife and my children. He was saying that, Krishna's given me some good realization today. And so he was meditating. My Guru Maharaj has given me this impossible task to go to this terrible place, America. And it's a terrible place, America. Just to preach Krishna consciousness to these people who have no idea about anything, even materially speaking, even material culture. They have no material culture. But Srila Prabhupada went alone, by himself. Nobody helped him. He beseeched different Gaudiya Math sannyasis and different, branches of the Gaudiya Math which had come up. He asked them, send me some men, send me a mridanga. They wouldn't even do that much. But Srila Prabhupada never lost his determination. Srila Prabhupada kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing because he had faith in the order of his spiritual master. He had faith in the order or in the prophecy that the holy name of Lord Gauranga would be spread in every single town and village. And so gradually, of course, people came. Some people, he had a little ragtag team of very sincere people. And just see the result of Srila Prabhupada's determination and the result of Srila Prabhupada's the blood, sweat, and tears, gallons and gallons and gallons of blood that Srila Prabhupada shed for the spreading of this Krishna consciousness movement. And all Srila Prabhupada is saying, Prabhupada's, when they were developing Mayapur, Prabhupada told Jayapataka Maharaj, I've given you the kingdom of heaven, now take it and enjoy. So in the same way, Prabhupada has given us everything. Prabhupada has given us, all these temples, all these books, all these instructions. Prabhupada is just saying, now just take it. Just take it and preach vigorously. The foundation is already there. All we have to do is just go out and do it. We don't have to think about all these different ways. Of course, it's good. We should rack our brain and think of ways that we can reach the conditioned souls. But the basics are there. There's no experimentation. Prabhupada said, go out and distribute my books. If you want to please me, distribute books. So that's what we do. That's what we do, is we distribute Srila Prabhupada's books very vigorously with the faith and determination that by this book distribution and by this preaching, Srila Prabhupada will be pleased, and the whole world will be engrossed, will be immersed in Krishna consciousness. And that's our goal, is to take all the fallen conditioned souls back home, back to God, in the mood of Vasudev Datta. There's a verse, Hey Sadhava Sakalameva Vihaya Durad. Gauranga, what's the first? It's a verse by Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati, where he's saying, Dante nithaya trinakam padayor nipatya kritvacha kakushatameta bravimi Hey sadhava sakalameva vihaya durad Gauranga chandra charane kurutanuragaha. That I'm falling at your feet with straw between my teeth. Learned gentlemen, please, 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 hey sadhava sakalameva vihaya dur. Just cast away everything that you know. Just give it all up. And develop attraction for the lotus feet of Lord Gauranga. So this is our mood. Just begging the conditioned souls. Not chastising, not, just very mercifully going out saying, please, just give it up. Just look at this, How could you not want this? And if you really take up this process of Krishna consciousness, you will be happy. You will find peace. You will find real love and friendship and satisfaction. Not this chapala sukhalaba lagire. Not this flickering, nasty material happiness. So this is our motivation, this is our determination, this is our mood. And our desires to repay Srila Prabhupada for what he's done for us. So I guess, it's 8:21, so I'll stop there. We can have questions and answers.
You refer to that song, Prabhupada's Prayer to the Lotus Feet of Lord Krishna, which he wrote on the boat in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
And you even quoted the first verse, which is the refrain, means it was repeated again and again, Krishna tava punya habe bhai, like that. Now, many devotees may not know this because the songbook, people don't read it all so much. But the translation of that refrain is very interesting, because the way it's translated here by our old friend Jai Sachinandan. But first of all, some history. Prabhupada approved the revision of the songbook in a letter to Jai Sachinandan, and he wrote, and he told him, you can include in the songbook, which wasn't there in the first songbook, which was printed in 1973, shortly after I got these two songs that Prabhupada wrote. With most famous Srimad Bhagavatam, which he wrote on actually after landing and then going back on the boat and wrote it there. But this one was written in the middle of the ocean. So Jai Sachinandan wrote to Prabhupada, sent him his revised translation to Markandeya Bhagavatama, and this one also. And Prabhupada made corrections on Markandeya Bhagavatama, which Jai Sachinandan incorporated, so that's completely bona fide. And he said, I'll send you corrections for the next one, later. But this is 1977, and Prabhupada never did that. So here's the translation as we've had it, but it's been revised. Refrain. I emphatically say to you, O brothers, you will obtain your good fortune from the Supreme Lord Krishna only when Srimati Radharani becomes pleased with you. What it means, Bhakti Swami got into it, people who know Bengali, that's not what I emphatically say to you, O brother, Krishna, you will obtain your good fortune only when Srimati Radharani becomes pleased with you. You got that? This is Prabhupada in the mood of telling Krishna that you'll be pleased. And then later on, there's this famous line in here, near the end of the song, and it's all about preaching, of course. And then he quotes Evam Janamna Patitam, that, which some of you know that verse. And then he says, "Oh dear friend, Krishna, in your company I will experience great joy once again. In the early morning I will wander about the cowherd pastures and fields, running and frolicking in the many forests of Braj. I will roll on the ground in spiritual ecstasy. Oh, when will that day be mine?" Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, there's this verse which comes to mind in that regard. Oh, Krishna, I'm forgetting it now. Radha padam bhoja sudam shirashihi. That's the last line. Yeah. Yeah, maybe I'll remember it if there's more questions. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Yeah, happily. Yeah, please.
Question I have is, Ajamila, this happened to him. Well, here's the question. Two people can get the exact same association, hear the exact same thing. One takes it and one doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
This is described in Harinam Chintamani, that there are some people who take up this process of chanting the holy name, and there's some people who don't. And the basic qualification of somebody who takes up the process of Krishna consciousness is Shraddha, is faith. So some people, they're too just according to their guna and their karma, they're very skeptical, or they're very naturally averse to, they're in the lower modes. So they can't even understand a little bit of what's going on. But there's some people who can. There's some people who are, you could say, more sattvic, and who can understand, at least in part, some principles of Krishna consciousness, and then they gain some faith, a little more faith, and gradually that builds as they associate more with devotees. That's my understanding. If you have something, or if other devotees have something. Okay.
May I?
Yes, please.
This is with admiration and all my affection. What planet did you come from, Prabhu? Your preaching is so incredible, and it's amazing to have just met you a couple years ago and watch you advance. You give this information so elegantly and so, I don't know, it affects me so much to hear you preach, and I want to thank you for your hard work and your devotion and sharing it. I just really enjoy your approach and your the way that you advance and your dedication. So thank you so much.
All goes to Srila Prabhupada.
You were mentioning that we should preach vigorously. That's the instruction of Srila Prabhupada. But if we're preaching, but we're not exactly preaching vigorously, are we making a mistake? And what does it mean to preach vigorously?
Well, preach vigorously means to not necessarily preaching strongly, like we should just, like I said, like not that we just go out and chastise everybody for being rascals, hogs, dogs, camels, and asses. But preaching vigorously means that we, for ourselves, we're always engaged intensely with great determination in preaching, and we're always meditating how we can preach more. And I mean, of course, preaching strongly is an aspect of that, but preaching strongly is not necessarily. There's the consideration of time, place, and circumstance. Some people don't respond to that. And it actually has the reverse effect if people just see you as a, just some fried out guy. So preaching vigorously means, for oneself always to be engaged intensely in preaching, always meditating on it, focused, enthusiasm, And then from, enthusiasm naturally comes focus and determination and, constant engagement. So. Okay. Anything on Zoom? Nothing on Zoom? Okay, please.
Sorry for that question. Colon H. But the one thing that we shouldn't minimize is the power of Agyata Sukriti. Even book distribution. Someone takes a book, they give a donation. And that book may go on their shelf, they may never read it. Maybe their child will read it or someone else will read it. But just giving that donation is Sukriti, that's Bhakti. That money is used for propagation. So in the next life, that very person may have the adhikari to be more receptive to the mission when they meet a devotee and get that seed of faith. So that's also a very important factor. Just like I love Vijay's story. He was searching, and then when he found the Bhagavad Gita, that was it, right? So obviously there's something, to me that means clear there's something from a previous life that you're qualified to do that. And everyone, of course, Prabhupada said, I've made you good fortune, Agyata Sukriti or not, So that's another factor. Someone buys a book, they had no contact at all in the previous life. If they read it, they're associating with Prabhupada. That's the thing. They're so, maybe this came up, but that's, he said himself, the association with the spiritual master is much more important through Vani than Vapu. Right? That became very prominent in the last year, when Prabhupada was getting ready to depart. So that association, he recognized, through his books, will be available for 10,000 years. Then we should be enlivened by that. You're giving people an association of Srila Prabhupada. And which is the most valuable thing they could possibly have, especially if they read the book, and like that. So that's another factor of the whole thing.
Yeah, there's this term, Bhakti Unmukhi Sukriti, and I've heard that Bhakti Unmukhi Sukriti is you cash it in when you associate with devotees, and then you make advancement in that way. That's what I've heard. So, Bhakti Unmukhi Sukriti. Okay. Krishna Kripa Srimurti Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai. Breakfast ki jai.